that's my Severn, my model guitar there. Um, and nothing major wrong, but what happens to me is when about a year, every year, probably the last, I don't know, 20 years, when I play lots of shows, I work the volume knob up and down in between almost every chord if I'm not playing. So if I'm not playing or something and it's supposed to be silenced, the volume of the guitar is off. So for the last at least maybe 20 years, 10 to 15, 20 years, I would break switches or I would go through a switch, 5-position switch, and a volume pot, at least once a year. Um, I've had this guitar for 3 years and it's been around the world. So I've never broken a switch on it, which is great. But this is the second volume pot I've had in the guitar. And because of why and it's like that on all of my guitars. The Les Paul, which I actually haven't toured with that much, and that one went really quick. And my Ibanez guitars from the past. So Brad, since I'm here at Brad's place, and he's Brad. Can I show him your shop here a little bit? No.
All apologies.
Oh, okay. Nothing secret in here yet. So Brad actually has built some amazing guitars. Maybe I could show you some of his guitars later. Yeah, let's do that. We'll do that in a minute. So since I know he knows exactly what he's doing, big time. Asked him to replace the volume pot. You're doing a 250K?
Yep.
250K pot. And then since I have single coil pickups in the neck and middle position of my guitar, I asked him to put a treble bleed in. Now I have one old Telly that has a treble bleed in, and that guitar has a little bit of magic about it that I really like. And then one of my favorite guitar players is a guy named John Kurzbeck, who's also a fellow producer. He's a big-time producer, but he's also one of my favorite guitar players. And he's been using it all about treble bleeds for a long time. And Brad actually hit me to the fact that they seem to work better on single coil pickups than humbucker pickups for different reasons, for different people. So since I have the single coil pickups in the neck and the middle position, we're putting what kind of cap are you putting in there?
Putting it would be in the picofarad silver mica capacitor, and then a 220K bleeder resistor. It's run in parallel, and in effect what it does is it allows, as you're rolling the volume down on the control, on the potentiometer itself, it allows high frequencies to pass. It's basically a high pass filter. So it allows the high frequencies to get through until you get really much further down. That way you retain the crispness even though the volume is dropping.
Okay, cool. And whatever he said in the very beginning, that I totally agree with, because I have no idea what he just said in the beginning. I got the end part. And I probably should wipe down my neck and stuff, but I'm just doing emergency stuff right now. So the volume pot wasn't completely dead. It wasn't dead really. What was happening was there was a dead spot in it. And again, for probably about 20 years, every time I play a guitar on the road a lot for about a year, I go through volume pots. And a friend of mine, Steve Stevens, actually, he mentioned something about after every tour having the volume pots changed in his guitars, which is probably a smart idea. Yeah, it's just routine maintenance of playing a lot. So I think there's someone else just joined, and basically what we're doing is just replacing Brad here is replacing my volume pot, which was a 250K pot, and he's putting another 250K. What type of pot are you putting in, and what type do you recommend?
I like the CTS pots. They're pretty good. Bourne's pots are good, but they're a little more. Some of the Bourne's pots are really delicate, and you have to really get the solder on there and get away from it and not overheat the thing. But the CTS pots are almost bulletproof, and they're coming out with some. Some of the supply companies are putting out some really high end, high tolerance potentiometers. If you can see that potentiometer there, that is a little bit more solder than I like. The more solder you have, because it's lead, you can actually develop noise and stuff from the solder. So I like to try to keep that to a minimum. Plus, it also, the more solder there is on there, the harder it is to get them off.
Just so you know, I didn't do that because about 26, 27 years ago, 28 years ago, I had three. Well, Steve Blucher from DiMaggio sent me some pickups to put in one of my Ibanez guitars, and I tried to do that. And I succeeded in frying the pot of one of the guitars, and I decided for whatever reason that, all right, so it didn't work on that guitar, let me try another guitar. Well, in a short amount of time, I broke 3 guitars. I made 3 nicely working Ibanez guitars not work anymore. And I called up Ibanez, and they said, bring them in the next day. So the next day, because I lived in New York City and didn't have a car or drive, I hopped on the train and went to Bensalem, Pennsylvania. And I remember Jim Donahue. If you don't know who Jim Donahue is, who used to work at Ibanez, you should look him up. He's a bit of history. He said, who did this? And I said, I did. And he after he looked at the second guitar, he goes, let's call your techs, your normal guitar techs, not the repair guys, but the guys who would fix my guitar, or hand me guitars on stage and stuff like that. And he pretty much called him and said, I want you to go to Larry's house and look all through his stuff and look for any soldering irons and throw them in the trash. So since then, that was I think that was 1990. I think that was 1990.
Oh.
I didn't. I haven't touched the guitar fix-wise.
And the other thing, the ground wire from the inside of the 4-conduct cable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any shielding on there. You don't have any shrink wrap. So this little bit of ground right here can get, bounce around in there and get in between the tabs on your thing. You're lucky you didn't have your volume just arbitrarily drop off on you.
Wild to know. All right. You got a couple of thumbs up there, Brad. All right, so obviously this will take a really long time if I keep it on while he finishes it and put the strings on. So I'll keep it on until he finishes it, but probably not the strings. But you should really check out some of Brad's guitars. I'm going to try and do that. I'm not sure how we can do that in the same show. But, yep, there's solder. I see smoke.
This is all... It's like you got an Italian restaurant going here. So much spaghetti.
So to be clear, the pickups for the guitar have been changed a couple of times. For making of my record, The Traveler, I actually had true single coils. These are DiMaggio Area 67s, and they don't hum like true single coils. And in the back, I have a DiMaggio Satch Track neck position in my bridge position, the neck position pickup in the bridge of my guitar. When I was making the Traveler, I had gotten some true single coils, and I put them in and had them put in the neck and middle position. And I used them for a while, and they actually sounded great. I was there, the Area 67s sound wonderful, and I'm very happy with them. But I wanted to see what it sounded like record with some true single coils, because I have some tellies that I use that have true single coils. And so everything was great, everything was cool. So part of the record, I don't even remember which songs, part of the record has true single coils. But during recording, two friends asked me to come down and jam. So I went to a club with Tim O'Brien. I went to a club in Columbus, Georgia, and as soon as I got on stage, I turned my guitar volume up, and there was just buzz and noise and buzz and noise. It wasn't the quality of the pickups; it was the fact that this club is known for noise. And actually, Tim turned to me and goes, "Oh yeah, this club's awful for single coil pickups." I was like, "Oh great, nice." So in between every time I turned the volume up, if I wasn't actually holding the guitar playing or playing, it was just a lot of noise, and I was like, "Oh man, if I did a sideman gig, I'd get fired." And then the next thing, I went down to Tallahassee, Florida, to jam with my friend John Kurzwig, who plays tellies. And as soon as I got there, I plugged in. I brought one of my tellies, which single coils, and this guitar with true single coils. And as soon as I plugged in, it was just hum city. And John turned to me and he goes, "Yeah, this is like the worst club in Tallahassee to play with single coil pickups." So that was two times. That was a hint enough for me to put the original Area 67 pickups back in. So that's probably why there's a little bit of a mess. It's been back and forth with pickups for a while. But these are pretty much here to stay. Um, I am waiting for a Knaggs with actual single coils with Lindy Fralin pickups. So just to have something different. So we'll see. I'll have to remember not to take that to any noisy clubs, or to ask people, say, "Hey, how's the club on single coil pickups?" Oh, we got a question. Hey, just curious, what string gauge do you use? I use nines on Strat scale. So this is a Strat scale guitar, which is Brad. What's the scale for Strat scale?
25 and a half.
25 and a half. And on my Gibson scale stuff, I have a few Les Paul reissues and a SG and a SG. Do you have SG Junior, and I have an old Melody Maker, and then a 330 and 70 early 70s 330. Those all have 10s on them. I have one Gibson Jazz box that has 11s on it, but that's rare that I'm playing that guitar. But Strat scales, I have 9s, and they're the Dario XL 120s. What I have right now here is here we go. Yeah, EXL 120s. I don't know what the 3D means. If you guys know what the 3D means, let me know. World's first string recycling program. There we go. Yeah, I've been with the Dario since the mid '80s. Yeah, if you guys have more questions, any questions, feel free to ask. I'm trying to get you a good view of what Brad's doing here. Yes, the guitar I'm waiting on is another Severn signature model. What's different about it is besides the single coils, the actual true single coils, the Lindy Fralins, is it's going to have a maple fretboard. I go to Europe. I go to Germany every year and Italy, and didn't go to Russia last year, but before that I went to Russia a couple of times. And getting, as you know, getting rosewood guitars in and out can be a little tricky. So they're supposedly not messing with individual carriers, but you never know. It's supposed to, I think, I don't want to give you bad information. I think if you have 22 pounds, you might be in trouble. Meaning if you have two guitars and they have rosewood at all on them and they weigh 22 pounds altogether, you might be in trouble. But don't quote me on that. You should do your own research before you get your guitars taken away from you.
Look up
Sites
treaties.
Sites treaties. That's right. Brad's a builder, so he knows about all the wood stuff.
Yeah. If you want to know why your guitars are getting progressively more expensive, now you know.
Yep. So Joe Knaggs is building me another one of these. It's going to be a different color. I don't want to reveal the color yet. But it'll be a maple fingerboard. It'll have my inlay there again. Yes, I know my frets need a little love, but I don't think we're going to have time to do that right now. Yes, so the only difference will be the maple fingerboard and Fralin single coils. So I do have another Knaggs, the green one, the semi-hollow body, which is actually amazing. And it has the same pickups as this, but it's a semi-hollow body, but it also has a rosewood fingerboard. And I took that to Germany last year. Yeah. So what else? You guys have any more questions? Nobody's got questions. All right. I'm trying to show you more of what Brad's done. It's the worst angle I can get. That sounds nice. You are okay if they are your guitar is the issue. Whoop, I missed that. Oh wait, how do I see that question again? Super strings these days. Use New York. I have I tried the New York XLs when they actually before they came out. They gave me a couple of packages to try, and they were cool. I still have them on a couple of guitars. I have some on a couple of guitars, but on this guitar and actually all the Knaggs, I went back to switching to the regular XL 120s. I can't tell you why. It could have simply been that I was out and didn't have any, and changed the strings, and then I continued doing it that way. But the New York XLs are really nice. I think I still have them on maybe 3 or 4 guitars. I'm sorry, I missed that other question. I think you were responding to the sites thing, and I didn't see who. And I'm new at this Facebook Live thing, so I'm trying to figure out how to see those questions again. So show. Thanks for not burning me, Brad. I need to be very careful there. It's a wood pick guard. Joe's all into wood. What do you listen to musically these days? Nowadays, I listen to. Can you talk about the sort of telly plate on your bridge? All right, so I got 2 questions. Musically, I still listening to like King's X, Prince, Seal, Eric Johnson. It's the anniversary of the Avia Music album, Avia Musicom album. It's a great record. Ed Sheeran. I listen to pop music as well, so I'm a big Ed Sheeran fan. I still listen to John Mayer stuff. I know he's controversial. The test. All right, so the plate, I'll come back to that too. The plate on there is Joseph Knaggs, who used to be research and development and run the private stock program at the PRS Guitars for 25 plus years.
You ever want to check your electronics, but you don't want to string it up? A couple of ways to do that. I like using a tuning fork. That way you know it works.
Cool.
The other thing you can do, if you feel inventive, I like to use this sometimes, little alligator clip, and you can clip it on here and then pluck your string over top.
That reminds me a little bit of the guitar that, what's the name, Bill's in the beginning of It Might Get Loud. Jack White.
Jack White, yeah. Yep.
And he has a little hot tone amp. I have a couple of these. These are really cool. They're the British. It's just I just use that for talking. Brad has some pretty cool amps, regular tube amps. All right, so the plate. Joe likes the whole telly concept, so he wraps the that tremolo is actually only held on. If you remember telling me about that, October Brazilian rosewood board. I had no trouble flying with. That's great. You have the documents.
You can see how the plate is screwed on here and here, and there's a pin in the side. So the bridge itself is pinned right to this plate.
Yep.
I personally think that this is genius. Although you got to make sure and keep it a little bit lubricated, just because the acid and the sweat in your skin can get in there, and you might get a little bit of hang up. But fulcrum edges, as a general rule, will wear out and build up a spot where the bridge itself can actually hang up, and unless you're using really ridiculously heavy strings, that fulcrum point will get a lip, and sometimes it'll sit and stop momentarily. With a rounded edge like this, and I'm guessing a stainless steel pin, it's a smooth bearing surface, but you're going to get a good contact, so the resonant tone is going to stay there, and at the same time, it's not going to give you that resistance.
Yep, that's it. That's the deal. Trying to think what else. Oh, music-wise, what else am I listening to? I don't know. I still listen to. I mean, just a lot of the old stuff. Cool. David Fung says, "Cool. Thanks to you, Brad."
Quite welcome.
I'm not sure what else. I'm trying to think of what else I'm listening to these days. There are a lot of screws in that wood pick guard.
I like a longer scale length.
You like the longer scale length?
Yeah. Intonation is a kind of a misnomer. You can't really make a guitar 100% in tune. You can fudge it. Buzz Featon system does that. They kind of play with the scale length itself and then the spacing of the frets. But it's still, you're dealing with a 12-tone scale that's mathematically incorrect. So you kind of have to get it as close as possible. And the longer a scale length is, the more in tune it's going to sound, because you get a harmonic overtone structure that kind of covers it all up. You ever wondered why a baby grand piano sounds so much better than an upright piano? Even though you get the upright piano tune, it just still sounds like an upright piano. It's because the strings are half the distance. And with a smaller scale length like that, you don't mask the sound as much. So pianos and guitars are or any kind of fretted instrument like this, you're dealing with a temperament where you have to kind of get it as close as possible.
I wish I could see the past questions. I know I must have missed a couple of questions.
Does anybody have any questions about pickup placement? Or
Did I wear the volume pots out playing with Vi? Uh, no. Um, but overall, in general, like I said, when I play live, I learned a long time ago before we had like noise gates, before I had noise gates and stuff like that. So when I'm not actually playing, is to quickly turn the volume on the guitar down. So I'm always touching the volume knob, and so almost every year I have to either repair the volume pot or replace it. And I noticed the last couple of actually at Vi Academy when I was playing, there's a little static in there, which I thought, oh, maybe I need to get it sprayed or something like that. But then last Tuesday I was doing my Facebook Live thing, and every time I turned the guitar volume down, it would drop, or when I turned it all the way up, there would be like a little dead spot in there. And I definitely have gone through some volume pots over the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Oh, lemon oil cleanup.
Lemon oil.
It's good to occasionally do this just to lift the gunk from your skin and your sweat out of the fingerboard. What'll happen is if you let it in there too much, little microbes and everything will start to make the fingerboard deteriorate. They eat into the wood. Takes a while, takes quite some time, but you can end up with problems where frets start coming loose because of the gunk, the schmudge, as it were. Some people hammer the frets in or press the frets in. I know Paul Reed Smith, I'm pretty sure, Bob Benedetto, I myself, I like to route the channel and then I epoxy the frets in. That way the entire tang of the fret is completely surrounded and you get a good contact with the whole fingerboard. I personally think it helps the notes resonate. I also use stainless steel fret wire, which I think helps the resonance.
Oh, cool. You like stainless steel?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. It's destroys you. I mean, this is like a pile of files,
Okay.
And then you do a lot of stainless steel work. You will go through a couple of these, at least one a year.
Okay.
You just go through them because even though it's a diamond file, it's still, the stainless is really ridiculously hard on it.
Yeah. Normally Joe doesn't do guitars, but he doesn't put stainless steel. He'll put whatever you want on it, but this guitar, I'm not sure why, but it might have been, I can't remember why, but this one does have stainless steels on it. But I believe my other Knaggs guitars have nickel, maybe nickel?
Yeah, so they're usually 18% nickel silver. And ironically, the 18 nickel silver is almost as hard as stainless. And you can play around with the nickel. A guy I used to know in Santa Fe, New Mexico, was a metallurgist, told me that the zinc in the nickel silver, if you were to heat the frets and then let them cool slowly, you would actually end up with something that would be almost as hard as a stainless steel fret wire that was heated and cooled quickly.
Okay. So Brad's actually going to put the strings on. So here's something interesting. I've been playing probably 40 plus years. I don't know if I've ever really learned how to put strings on. I just do it my way. I got a funny feeling I'm going to get schooled on putting strings on. Tempering the metal bit, Brad? Someone posted that.
Yeah, heating it. It's kind of like when if you've ever watched Forged in Fire on the History Channel, and you see guys when they heat the metal up, get it good and hot, and then they cool it and they quench it. Varying the amount of heat, how quickly you cool something, you can realign the particle, the atomic structure, as it were, just to make it more dense. It solidifies it, and if you cool it slowly, with steel, as a general rule, it makes it softer. But with fret wire, it's a little bit different because of the zinc. If you ever had a coat hanger and bent the coat hanger back and forth, and you feel it building up in heat, and then you stop for a second, and then bend it again, it'll break almost immediately. And that's because the zinc heats up, and if it cools slowly, it's not pliable anymore. It actually gets more brittle. So
Japanese words made that swords that made that way to harden. Ah,
Yep.
yeah, cool.
Well, actually, all swords are made that way. The Japanese just figured out if you
I was falling over in Brad's studio here. Okay.
if with the Japanese swords, if you look at a really good Japanese sword, you'll see the back of the blade has a totally different look than the edge of the blade. And what they'll do is they'll put clay on the back edge of the blade of the sword itself, and then when they heat it up and then cool it, usually they'll have the blade, it'll be relatively straight. And when they cool it, what happens is it'll actually put the curve into it. What they're doing is they're slowing down the cooling of the back of the blade, and that makes the back of the blade more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you go to block or strike, there's less tendency for the whole blade to just break. And then the edge, because it's not covered in clay, cools very quickly. And that's where you get the hard tempering on the edge and good edge retention.
Okay. You have a sword upstairs. Is that a Japanese sword?
No, that is actually the one up there was made by the guy that explained this metallurgy to me.
Okay.
But I have Japanese chisels
Mm-hmm.
that I use, and these are actually heated and cooled in a special way so that the very edge retains this. The last thing I used this on was Purple Heart, and
Okay.
really abused it. And it's still, you can still see it shaves the hair off the back of my hand.
Wow. All right. All right. Every time I touch something in here, I move it, and I think I'm about to break something.
Yeah, and there's stuff in here that will bite.
Okay. We're in here.
Excuse me.
So I know Brad from back in the New York days used to work at Manny's.
Yep.
And where else did you work at on 48th Street?
48th Street Custom Guitars.
Yep. And then when I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, I was there for about 10 years. Someone said, "Oh, you should." I was looking for a store to get something fixed, and someone recommended that. Was that how I ended up at your shop?
Yeah.
I walk in and go, "Wait a minute." Yeah, Brad had a music store in Santa Fe as well, and now he's in Las Vegas. Hey, Trey. Budget Jeeps is online. Hey, guys. Yeah, forgive me if it takes me a long time to read that, because I think this is too close for me to read. As a product of turning 53 is eyesight starting to get a little funky. Hey, guys. So for a couple people that just jumped on, I'm here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I've been playing. I've been traveling since January 1st. And I noticed that my volume pot would get a little funky, get a little noisy here and there, a little scratchy. And then I thought it was just need some spray in there. But then I started to notice that when I turn it all the way up, that it would be a little bit of a dropout. And then sometimes when I go all the way down, it would be a little bit of a dropout. So since I'm here with Brad, and I know he's totally knows what he's doing, he's like the dude. I asked him about changing the pot, so he put a 250K pot on there. And then I also asked him about putting in a treble bleed, which he did. If you're just joining, you might want to, after this is over, you might want to go back, because he did a great explanation about the treble bleed. And and I'm not going to try and repeat it. I know that I have one on an old telly that I love the way what it does, and my friend John Kurzweig, who's one of my favorite guitar players, he uses a treble bleed, but he also plays single coils, and so Brad explained to me why it seems to be I would like it better on single coils instead of a humbucker guitar, and so I think that's probably why I started to really like it when I started playing my telly out live. And also, I go through volume pots and switches. Although in this guitar, I have not broken the switch at all. I believe I had this for almost 4 years now. Um, and I have, this is the second time a volume pot's been changing it, I believe. Because I'm just hard, every year I would wear, for the last 10, 15, 20 years, I wear out volume pots. Just the way that I turn the guitar down and up when I'm playing. So those are the locking tuners. You have to unlock it with the screwdriver, or
it's
pin.
Yeah, it's just this one.
It won't unlock unless you.
Oh, it's turned.
Oh, okay, yeah, there you go.
But they thread down on, so unless you want to be there for a while, having it thread. You can see when it starts to grab the string, that's when it'll start to turn. Get on that.
I think you might have to, you might have to screw it in just a little bit. This is why I keep a penny in my gig bag, because I found a penny to be the best to get it to unlock. I'll use, what is that?
That is I believe, 10 pence.
10 pence.
Yes, English. This is actually what Brian May uses for a guitar pick.
Oh, cool. That might still be up too much, no?
It didn't want to go in before.
Yeah, I think you have to screw it.
Just take it down on the back.
Yeah.
This is actually my first time using tuners like this. There we go.
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah, it's kind of the Planet Waves that were on some of my Ibanez guitars. I was like, kind of works on the same principle. So that was my first time experiencing those. And I remember, where was I? I was not in the country the first time I changed the strings on the guitar that had them, and I was like, uh-oh. And I can't actually call Ibanez from out of the country, but I figured it out after a while.
Another handy hint, checking the tuning on the guitar, I like to use a tuning fork. If you tap the harmonic overtone on the A string, you get a 440. If you're ever stuck in a position where you don't have a tuner or a tuning fork, and you're there by a basic landline telephone, the top pitch on the dial tone of a telephone is A440, so you can always, I've actually set guitars up at bars using the telephone behind the bar as a pitch reference.
All right. Yeah, I think once I lock it, I always use the coin to unlock it. But once I turn it, it seems to always lock.
Yeah, yeah.
But you had a little play there. I just noticed that. So
Yeah, it's the only reason I do that is I like to snug things up just a hair.
hmm
It's not as big a deal on the wound strings because they have a tendency, they have their own little bit of resistance.
hmm
Um, I use Spurzel tuners.
Yeah, I used Brazils for years on quite a few guitars. hmm
And I had issues at times with the Spurzels cutting strings because you would get there and crank it way too tight with your hand,
hmm
and so I got into a habit of not really tightening any of the stuff up that much. Like even there where I'm using the coin and tightening it, I try to just more or less snug it up like that. And then on the higher strings, Larry was saying about how some people do things a little different. I like to take the string and go underneath like that, and then back over top. Now what that does, I don't know if it'll show up as well on the phone, but if you look right in there, what happens is the string is now holding itself in place, so you really don't even need to tighten this up. And it will lock the string in, and probably 95 out of 100 times it'll never slip.
Who knew? You guys probably knew. I didn't know.
Around underneath like that,
hmm
and then back over top. The other thing I always do, once you cut the string off, take the string, loop it through itself a few times, then into the trash. If you don't loop it and you're not paying attention, it'll go off of your table or off your kitchen table. It'll wind up in the carpet, and you won't find it
Until you stick it into your toes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The G string, especially when I use really heavy strings on my guitars. I use like 12 to 52 gauge strings. So my G string is 20 gauge, and my acoustics is a 22 unwound. And pretty much a 20 gauge string won't stop until it hits bone.
Oh, hey, guy, BV Ninja. Hey, you guys. I just saw that. We're here in Las Vegas, Nevada, at my friend Brad's house, his shop. And I know Brad from New York in Manny's many years ago, and in Santa Fe, New Mexico, he had a store and a repair shop there. And he's worked on some of my guitars before. And he just replaced the volume pot on my Knaggs Severn, my model, LM model. And he also put in a treble bleed because I was curious about treble bleeds. I have a treble bleed in my telly, one of my tellies, and that has single coils in it. And a good friend of mine, great player, one of my favorite guitar players, John Kurzwick, he uses treble bleeds. He loves the whole treble bleed thing, but he also plays single coils. So until recently, I didn't play single coils out like as much as I'm doing now, anywhere near that. These are the Damasio Area 67s and Damasio Satch track neck position pickup in the bridge position of my guitar. So you put a treble bleed in. Because I break volume pots. And Brad make it look so easy, all so easy doing it. Yes, he does. Yep.
When you take the strings and pre-stretch them like this, the tendency for a lot of people is to really yank on it. And in particular on the wound strings, you don't want to do that. If you pull too hard, you can actually disconnect the center core from the outside winding. And you'll be plucking on the string, and you do a brand new fret job on a guitar, and it's perfectly level and flat, and there's no buzzes anywhere, and you're plucking on the string and you hear it buzzing, and you're like, what happened? Well, it's because you've yanked too hard and you've released that center core, and the string will buzz the entire length.
Good to know. There's lots of things I've learned here today that I just never knew. Very cool.
Quick check of the intonation. A lot of people will tell you check the intonation by plucking the 12th fret and then touching the 12th fret. That works okay. It gets close. The problem is that the harmonic overtone structure in the string's not just vibrating like this, it's vibrating like this and like this. There's a bunch of harmonic overtones, and the placement of the pickup, that's how you get your different tones. You have to be more accurate, and tempering the instrument itself means you have to stretch the scale just a hair. So what I like to do, I like to check it at the 19th fret. You're actually dividing more harmonic overtones out of the string, so you're basically getting more articulate and a little bit better.
Did I mention that Brad's kind of in the scientist thing? Oh, BB Ninja says, thanks for sharing the knowledge, Brad. There you go.
Quite low.
Brad is good at that. You should do that for a living. Yes. Who is that? Is that someone with Robert? I can't see it. It might be. Do you know Brad? Do you know me? You know Brad. You must know me if you're watching my channel there. I couldn't see it. I can't. I've just turned 50. I turned 53 and I can't see. I need glasses to read that from here. Yeah, Brad knows knowledge. I'm trying to get Brad to do a weekly YouTube video show on tech stuff. You guys think that would be good? Anybody? Oh, happy birthday. Robert, BB Ninja says yes, that would be good. Hey, Robert, that's cool. Yes, yeah, happy birthday, man. Yeah. Are you going to the NAMM show in 13 days? I think that's NAMM time. Budget Jeep says yes, you should do a show. You should do a weekly thing on YouTube.
I'm going to have to seriously consider it. Larry's a very wise person, so I tend to listen to my wiser friends these days.
You got someone else? I can't see that. I can't read that from here. Pitch said yes, it would be great. I'll comment later on, but I can't. I wasn't able to read that real good. So that's it. So you ready for me to check it out?
Cool. You want to go up and plug it in and try out the treble
Yeah.
lead?
All right, guys. So I'm not going to walk you through the rest of this stuff. I might go live a little bit with the treble lead once we get it set up and everything, just for a short minute. You're still playing NAMM playing in the theater at NAMM, Larry? In the theater. I'm playing at the Marriott Saturday, January 27th at 8 p.m. with Charlie Lorme and Jeff Eason, the band I usually play with. Does he work on regular people's guitars? Yes, Brad definitely works on regular people's guitars. Definitely. We'll put some sort of contact info. Or do you have a contact for people that want to work on the guitars?
My email address is toothandhand@gmail.com. toothinhand@gmail.com.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, if you had a question about guitars or some of the tech stuff, I can either answer your questions. On top of that, if I don't know the answer, I've been doing this long enough that I know somebody who does know the answer, so I can get back to you with the correct answer and information.
There you go. That's the sign of someone that you want to associate with, not someone that says, "I don't really know what to do, but I'm just going to make up an answer." You know, because there's enough people that do that. So anyway, so I'm gonna BB Ninja says, I don't know why I can't say Ninja. I can say Ninja without BV. Says thanks, Brad. Thank you for watching. Thanks, guys. I'm playing the NAMM show Saturday, January 27th at 8 o'clock in the Marriott lobby. We usually have a blast. A couple of years ago, we had 2,000 people in the lobby. They shut it down. You couldn't get in if you BV. Okay. You couldn't get in unless you had a hotel room key until it calmed down a little bit. We had Andy Timmons has sat in with me at least 3 of the 5 times I've played there. Vernon Reed sat in, I think that night. Richie Kotzen, Doug Rappaport. I think Doug's coming back this year. There's some other guitar players that might sit in. It's going to be a blast. My friend John Kirchner's going to do a song. I only got 40 minutes, so I'm trying to squeeze in as much as I can. And then I'm going right after that show. I'm going to Chasers in Orange County, Anaheim, to play. My band's playing along with Pet Shark, and I can't remember the Travis Larson band, obviously. Pet Shark, Doug. Somebody answer me on who it is. Doug. I can't. I gotta always have the stuff ready. And then the Travis Larson band, which is always great. And it's got Jennifer Young, one of my favorite bass players. She's killing on the bass. She'll be playing with Travis. All right. Thanks for watching. I might go live a little bit. Doug Johns. There you go. Thank you very much. Doug Johns, Pet Shark, Doug Johns, myself, and then the Travis Larson band are headlining. And then there might be some kind of jam there, too, afterwards. Okay.